everyone, it's Lindey. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about some big changes that I am making in my eBay store and how I am choosing to list items that have expiration dates. My YouTube channel has loads of videos all centered around selling merchandise on eBay, and a lot of those items that I sell are ones that have expiration dates. I sell a lot of health and beauty, so that means that I have items that have a shorter shelf life a lot of the time. And a big question that I get in the comment section of those videos is how exactly I manage items that have expiration dates, how often I receive items that have already expired or have a really close date, how much money I lose on those items that arrive expired if I can't sell them in time, and how exactly do I track these items so that they don't expire before I have a chance to sell them. Honestly, when I first started selling items that had expiration dates, I didn't realize how many questions that would stir up, because to me, the concept is still the same. You have an item, your intention is to list it and sell it as quickly as possible. But if the item has an expiration date, that just means that it has more of a ticking clock on it. So I've been listing items with a shelf life for years now, and I've been listing them the same way. And just recently, I realized that I needed to revamp my entire system, because honestly, no matter how long we do this, that doesn't mean that it's the best way to do it. Sometimes there's a better way and you just need to figure it out. And I think I figured it out. So today's video is going to be filled with all different kinds of information. I want to tell you guys how I used to list items with expiration dates and what I've decided to change and how I'm listing them now. I'm also going to go over how I track these items, and then I'm going to go into a lot of those questions that I get surrounding how often I get expired items, how I handle those items, how I price these items, and how I manage to sell most of them before they expire so that I don't lose a bunch of money. So the first thing I want to talk about is eBay's listing policy when it comes to expired items, because there always seems to be a group of commenters that don't even know that you can list items with expiration dates on eBay. You don't need a special business license. You don't have to submit any form of application to eBay for permission to list items that have an expiration date. All you have to do is list them. eBay just asks that you do a couple of things if you're choosing to sell items that have an expiration date. The first thing that you're required to do is notify the buyer of any expiration date that is printed on the packaging. So if there's an expiration date printed anywhere on the packaging, you as the seller are required to tell the buyer what the expiration date printed is so that the buyer knows before they purchase. The next thing you're required to do is to make sure that any product that has an expiration date that is a topical or consumable is stored in such a manner that it's out of light or extreme heat or cold. And then the last thing you're required to do per eBay's policy is you have to make sure that if it is a topical or a consumable, that it arrives to the buyer delivered in their hot little hands before the expiration date passes. The kind of items with expiration dates that can kind of skirt under this last rule are items like printer ink that have an expiration date, but as long as the buyer knows that the expiration date has passed, you're not violating eBay's policies. But if we're talking about something that goes on your skin or in your body, if there is an expiration date, it needs to be in the buyer's hands before the date passes. So this means that if you have an item that, for instance, expires in the end of March and someone buys the item on eBay on the last day of March, it is completely impossible for the item to arrive to the buyer before the expiration date passes. So therefore, technically, you shouldn't be selling that item to the buyer. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You are probably thinking that you've seen lots of sellers sell expired topical items on eBay. So why are they selling it if you're technically not allowed to? My response to that is just because you see other sellers doing it doesn't make it right. I have contacted eBay a couple of different times just to kind of talk to the trust and safety team about their expired listings policy, because I do see some sellers sell things with expiration dates that have passed, like lotions or face creams. And the entire idea behind that is, Why does a lotion even have an expiration date anyway? As long as the buyer knows that the expiration date is passed, we should still be allowed to sell it, right? And so in speaking with the trust and safety team at eBay, they all told me that it is against regulation to sell items that go on your skin or in your body if it's past the expiration date, and it's probably just best not to list those items. And I guess in the big picture, it is not a good idea because you don't want to open yourself up to getting in trouble and having the buyer contact eBay, getting your account suspended because you sold something that was against policy, or what's even worse, get sued because somebody put an expired item on their skin and had an allergic reaction. So eBay policies exist for a reason. It's probably just best to abide by those policies and play by the rules. So now before I get into detail talking about how exactly I used to list items with expiration dates and what I'm doing now that's so vastly different, I do also want to answer the question that I get a lot, which is how many times do I get items that are expired and how many times do I take losses on items that arrive expired or expire before I can sell it? And this is a perfectly valid question to ask when we're talking about sourcing health and beauty merchandise where you receive numerous items that do have expiration dates. My answer to that is I take a lot less losses now than I used to because now I only source items that expire with liquidators that don't send me a bunch of expired stuff. Because here's the thing, I source a lot of liquidation. If you source wholesale, then you're going to get items that are more far dated, they're not going to be expired, but you are also paying a significant dollar amount for wholesale items. That's why I like to buy liquidation, because in liquidation you get a better price point, but then there's also a lot more risk regarding expiration dates, because 99% of the time, liquidation is always an as-is sale. So if you're buying merchandise that likely have expiration dates, you are gambling every time you buy because it's as is. There's no guarantees with liquidation. I have wasted a lot of money in the past buying liquidation from companies that send me a bunch of expired stuff and they get away with it as being it's an as-is sale when you buy customer returns or you buy liquidation of any kind. The expiration dates are not our fault, sorry. And this is a big reason why you guys hear me talk about Wholesale Ninjas, because Wholesale Ninjas is the only liquidation site that I have sourced with where the amount of expired items that I receive in liquidation is always less than 5%. And that's because they're actually hands on the merchandise. They're sorting things out. When they get stuff in, I know that they have to have a bunch of expired stuff and they're actually tossing it rather than putting it in the box for the people that are buying their liquidation. Wholesale Ninjas also specializes in health and beauty, so they do a really good job packaging items. They sort out a lot of the expiration dates. I can't say that 100% of the items that I get are all within date because there are some errors, there are some mistakes during the sorting process, but less than 5%, that's better than any company I've ever sourced with. As you guys probably know, Wholesale Ninjas is a huge supporter of my YouTube channel and they are sponsoring today's video. And because they are sponsoring today's video, I do have a coupon code for them. The code is Lindey25 and it gets you $25 off of anything on the Wholesale Ninjas website. I will definitely make sure to link my favorite lots that they have on their site down in the video description. But there is a real reason why I always talk about Wholesale Ninjas. Everything is always impeccably packaged. The dates are always really good. There's hardly any breakage. And when you're buying things like health and beauty or personal care, those are really important traits that you need to look for in a liquidation company. That's why I always talk about them. That's why I'm always showing unboxings of them on my YouTube channel, because that is where I'm getting most of my health and beauty stuff, because I don't like getting a bunch of stuff I can't sell. I don't like looking at a really good product and realizing the expiration date is passed. And I hate having to take huge losses because everything is out of date and I can't sell it. So thank you very much to Wholesale Ninjas for going in and taking out as many of the expired items as possible so we as sellers don't have to take a bunch of losses. And also thank you for sponsoring today's video. So now let's talk about how I used to list these items that have expiration dates and the big change that I am making and what exactly I am doing now and why I am choosing to make this change. So this is what I used to do before. Before, I would just have one single listing regardless of how many different expiration dates there were of this item. Meaning if I had one item but I had 10 of these items, Even if they weren't all the exact same expiration date, I would still just create one single listing on eBay. What I would choose to do is just simply acknowledge the closest expiration date in the listing. And then when that item sold, I would go to the item in the inventory boxes and I would just simply look at the expiration dates and pull the one that was closest to today. So if I had 10 of one product and 3 expired this month, 4 expired 2 months from now, and then the rest expired at the end of the year, I would just simply go to the box and pull one out that was the closest. So it was keeping all of the activity for any sales on the same listing. So then what I would do is next month, I would be pulling out all of the items that expired from the previous month. I would adjust the listing to reflect a more updated expiration date, and I would adjust the quantity to reflect that. So in that example, at the start of next month, I would have pulled all of the items that expired this month out, edit the listing, change the expiration date to the next set of expiration dates that are the closest to expire, and adjust the quantity to reflect the true number that I have that are no longer expired. Already just explaining how I used to do this sounds really confusing. Hopefully you're tracking with me. And then of course, sometimes what I would do is if I had a really large quantity of an item that was about ready to expire within the next 30 to 60 days, I would drop the price on that listing to try to move those products out before they pass their date. But then what was happening was I was starting to sell through all of the items that are about ready to expire, and then I would be selling the ones that had a further out date for just as cheaply as the ones that were about to expire. So that wasn't really working either because I felt like I was leaving money on the table, speed selling items that weren't close to date. And honestly, the whole system needed a revamp. There was too many items getting lost in the shuffle. There was too many expired items that were left in boxes because they were overlooked, simply because there were other quantities that had an expiration date further out, so they were completely getting left in inventory and taking up space. Dropping the price was allowing me to sell too many items too cheaply that weren't close to date. I knew that my whole system needed to be revamped. I just needed to take some time and try to figure out how exactly I wanted to manage the expiration dates in a better way. But no matter what I thought to try to do, it just seemed like I was making the entire system a lot more complicated. And I had promised you guys that I was going to do a video explaining how exactly I handle items with expiration dates, how I move them out before the date passes. And I was realizing that every plan I was starting to make for myself just got more and more complicated. But then eBay put out its spring seller update. And in that update, eBay notified sellers that with certain store levels, we were going to be getting more free insertions every single month. And that's when I knew exactly how I was going to handle my expiration dates moving forward. So if you didn't know, the basic store and premium store levels have extra insertions every single month. So now if you have a basic eBay store subscription, you get to list 1,000 items per month without having to pay an insertion fee. And premium store subscriptions, now you can list 10,000 items a month without having to pay any insertion fees, which this was really, really good news for me, because if you guys watch my sold videos every month I have to pay hundreds of dollars in insertion fees because of the amount of listings I have in my eBay store. But with this listing update policy, now I'm not gonna have to pay so many insertion fees, and I have a lot more listings that I can make without having to start paying insertion fees. And so now this is what I have changed when it comes to listing my expiration dates. I've already enacted it. It's already working out very, very well, and I'm very, very happy to finally have a system that I feel like is working to my benefit rather than working against me in the back end. So this is what I'm doing now. Each expiration date gets its own listing. So if I have one item and a quantity of 10, I'm going to split those up and have a separate listing depending on the expiration date. So if I have one item that has 3 expiring in June, 3 expiring in August, and 4 expiring in December, I'm going to have 3 separate listings of that item, and I'm going to indicate the expiration date differently in each listing. So I'm going to have one listing of quantity 3 that expire in June, one listing of quantity of 3 that expire in August, then one listing with a quantity of 4 that expires in December. Now, when it comes to items that have expiration dates, you must put the expiration date in the title, and this is why. Because every single month you can search that date to pull up all of your listings that expire that month. So this is what I am doing. For instance, we are in the month of April. So that means that I'm going to search my active listings for 04/2021. When I do that, I am going to see all of my listings that expire at the end of this month. From there, I can determine what listings, how many quantity I have of items that are about ready to expire, and what exactly I can do to move those out. That means that if I have one listing with a quantity of 3 that expire this month, I can choose to drop the price to only sell out the ones that are about ready to expire. That means the ones that I have that are later dated, I don't have to worry about accidentally overselling those and leaving money on the table just because I was trying to move out ones that are about ready to expire. So for instance, if I have an item that is about ready to expire this month, I might want to drop the price by 30% so I can try to sell them before they pass date. But if I have 4 more that expire later, that price gets to stay the same because those are not yet in danger of not selling before they pass date. I feel like this is a lot more organized when it comes to managing what items are about ready to expire. So this is what I am doing now. At the start of every month, I'm going to search my active items by the current date. So at the very beginning of April, I would have searched 04/2021. From there, I can evaluate the items that are going to expire this month. That's when I can drop the price if I choose to drop the price. That's when I can do any quantity adjustments. That's when I can revise to try to get some more traffic on those listings. And I'm only focusing on the items that are about ready to expire the upcoming month. Then the last week of this month, I will again search 04/2021 and I will see what items are left in stock that did not sell. I can change the quantities to 0 to keep them from selling and getting shipped to the buyer after date. And then I can go pull them out of inventory so they're no longer taking up space. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. So recap, put the expiration date in the title. At the start of the month, search that expiration date in your active listings, go in and adjust prices if you have quantities left that need to get sold. And then at the end of the month, search the month and year again. And from there, you can take out the quantities or end the listing so that they don't accidentally sell past date. And then you can immediately go remove them from inventory and you know exactly how many items have expired or are about to expire. That way, they're not left in inventory taking up valuable space. I also feel like doing it this way gives me a really clear vision of how many items I have in quantity that expire on certain dates. For instance, going back to that same example of having 10 quantity of the exact same item, if I just have one listing where I have a quantity of 10 and the soonest expiration date is 05/2021, I don't necessarily know at first glance how many of that quantity expire in May. There might only be one that expires in May, or they might all expire in May. I don't know just by looking at that listing. And I think that I was doing myself a disservice by listing it that way for so long just to simply save the insertion fees. But now, having all of the listings separated by expiration date, I can clearly see how many of a product are about ready to expire this month. So if I have an item that has a quantity of 10, I know when I search 04/2021 exactly how many of that item are about ready to expire. So I know at first glance, if I have a quantity of 10, I need to drop that price and move them out. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking a big loss. Whereas if I only have one, I might not worry about dropping the price too much. But if I have 10 that are about ready to expire, you better believe I'm going to drop that price big because I got to move those suckers out. But now here comes the next part of this system that is very, very important. If I'm going to be dropping prices on items to try try to move them out, that means I'm dropping the price of the entire listing. I'm not just running a sale. I am actually going into the listing and changing the price to try to get these items to sell before they expire. And if I happen to get more items in stock, that presents a problem, because that's one of the reasons why I have the out of stock option turned on in my eBay store. It's because I get more items in, and if I go to replenish those stock, I am going to be selling them for a very, very low value because I was previously trying to move them out before they pass date. So this means that now I have to really be diligent about cross-checking the current market price before I replenish a stock. So if I have an item with a quantity of 10 that I drop the price on to sell because the month is about ready to be over and I need to move them out, if I happen to get more in, I need to make sure that I am updating that price. So that just basically means that anytime I'm replenishing anything in my eBay store, I'm just basically going to do a simple comp search before I replenish the stock so that I don't accidentally sell them at too low of a price. That is how I'm choosing to handle this moving forward. So hopefully I don't have a bunch of expired items sitting in my inventory, and it avoids a lot of confusion with knowing exactly how many items are about ready to pass date. So now, what exactly do you do with items that arrive expired? What can you do with them if you can't sell them? I don't know. You can either use them or trash them. That's really all you can do, because there are regulations in place that say that sellers are not allowed to sell items that are expired. And that's a real bummer, which is another reason why I always try to source with companies that aren't gonna send me a bunch of expired stuff. Because there was one time I got a pallet from a company where literally everything was expired. Everything. I don't think there was one item with an expiration date that I was able to sell. And that hurt. It not only hurt my pocketbook because I spent a lot of money on that pallet, but it hurt my heart because that was a lot of stuff that I know somebody could probably use and somebody would be willing to use, but I couldn't sell it to them because of policy. So now, what is the point? Because everything I went over sounds really complicated. It sounds like excessive work, a lot of tracking, a lot of things to worry about. What is the point? Why bother selling these kind of items if it's such a headache and you run the risk of losing so much money getting expired stuff? It's because it sells. It sells, that's why. Because items that have expiration dates are widely desirable. They are consumables. They are items that people use and they use up and then they go look to buy more. Items with expiration dates sell faster than any other items that don't have expiration dates for me. That's why I choose to sell them. Not only do I sell them faster, but it also brings me repeat customers because, again, it's a consumable. It's a product that somebody uses up, and then they need to buy more. And when you have a turn and burn sales model like I do, flipping items fast, that's what it's all about. Just the fact that there is an expiration date printed on the box, that just means that you have to flip it fast. But if flipping items fast is your sales model anyway, that expiration date is kind of irrelevant if you think about it. So hopefully going over the way I am choosing to list my items with expiration dates here on out really helps you try to figure out your own system. Again, my system might not work best for you, but this is just me kind of telling you what I'm doing, seeing if maybe you can implement a little bit of what I do with a little bit of what you do to try to help list your items a little bit more smoothly and find a system that works best for you and your business. Thank you guys again so much for watching. If you like this video and videos like it, please do give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and ring the notification bell. Don't forget to check the video description. I will put a lot of useful information in there. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down in the comments below. Thank you again so much for watching. I will see you with my next video. Bye-bye.